Thank you. It's so lovely to be here with you all. We're super excited because today we are going to be diving into and exploring all aspects of creation and manifestation. And it's interesting because the more conscious we become and the more we move along our what we call spiritual journeys, we go through phases where we really want to create and manifest things, and phases where we're really not interested and we're just in the isness of it all. But as humans, as the masters have expressed many, many times, we are inherently a creative species and we're designed to create. It's what we do as manifestations ourselves of the one consciousness, as points of light ourselves, beaming into this reality and creating all sorts of prisms and holographic realities. We are creation itself. And so, of course, when we ask questions, what is creation and what is manifestation? It's never about acquiring. It's really about understanding the nature of ourselves. And indeed, we can begin to then think, well, what is abundance? Because abundance, is it about acquiring, or is it about recognizing and sitting in joy for the creative capacity and indeed the creations that we are? Because everything that we do in every moment, every expression, every event, every experience, every breath is a creation. So we're also very aware that there's a lot of people who want, on a practical level, to know, how can I manifest more in my life? How can I create more in my life? So we can begin this conversation today with a very clear premise and understanding that when we come to recognize ourselves as acts of creation, we can then begin to extend more of ourselves into this reality, not for the purpose of acquisition, but for the purpose of expression. So then we can say, well, if we're manifesting and we're creating, we're actually expressing, because we are exercising more of ourselves in this reality. And I'm so delighted to see so many of you with us today from all around the world. I feel very blessed and privileged to be here with you. And we, as a collective, and indeed all of you here with your points of light and viewpoints of expression, are co-creating this conversation today. So this conversation and what you're listening to and what you're watching in this moment is your creation. And I hope that you can claim that for yourself. So on that note, I'm going to dive in. I'm going to move a little bit deeper into the oneness within me and begin to express some wisdom from aspects of Source known as the Masters. Thank you for being here with me. Blessed ones, greetings to you. Indeed, we gather here on this day so that you can truly discover the awe and the magnitude of your own existence. To know oneself is to know creation. And yet humans will always ask the question, how do I create? And of course, the secret to creation is not in the doing, it's in the being. Because how can you know how to do what you are? And yet this is the question that so many come to us with. They will say unto us, what is my purpose? In other words, what do I do? When in essence, the greatest question that can be contemplated is, what am I? What is my being? Because if you are here to be, you are naturally here to create. And the more that you can be clear that you are being and that you are here and that you exist and you're in this present moment with us, in that moment, you are creating. So here, when you hear our words, you are creating this expression with your very attention. Of course, because without your attention, this does not exist for you. And this is fascinating because so many humans will say, it may not exist for me, but it exists for others. And therefore, it exists for others, but not for me. What action do I need to take to have that? Or to collect that? Or to experience that? Because I know that it exists somewhere, but it doesn't exist for me. Now, when we speak in this way, it's very important to know that the present moment reality is the only place, it's the only moment that you can create in. And logically, of course, you would agree, because you cannot create in the future, nor can you create in the past, only this present moment. And so in this present moment, if there is something that you desire and it is not in your present experience, it's easy to believe that you need to go somewhere or do something or take action to get it. However, if you have an awareness of it, that it exists somewhere in the collective reality, but it's not existing within your current view or experience, if you can be clear that it does exist, it exists in the collective. For example, I wish to have a grand home, or I wish to have a home that is large enough for my family. And you know that that's possible because you know that a home large enough for your family exists. In your present moment experience, you are not experiencing that it exists. Now, what's very important here is that you move into a state of alchemy in the present moment. So you can be clear in that present moment that I exist and I am creation itself. And my current view or my current experience is this, what it is that is on view for me in this moment. Because only this moment is the creation space. And so in this moment, I am in a very small home and it doesn't seem adequate. Now, that is a judgment in that moment, because it's not actually just observing what's on view, it's putting a judgment on it. It's not saying, this is a very small home, and that's all. And I am aware that there are larger homes. So there's no sense of purpose in this. It's a mere observation of what is and what is available. And if you can be very clear, I exist, I create, and this is what is. This is my current creation. The current creation is this small home. It is like having a child. It is like having an artwork, because that view in front of you exists because it's flowing through you. You are a light projecting into this reality. So in that moment, you look around your small abode and you say, look at this creation. This is my creation. And as a representative of the one consciousness yourself, what extends from you is also an extension of that one consciousness. That is your creation. That is what you have painted upon the canvas of this reality. And therefore, would it not be appropriate that you would love that? I love this very small abode because it is the creation in this moment. And it is the light of the one consciousness streaming itself through me into this reality, and therefore I love it. Now, if you have a child that child is your creation also. And those of you who are parents, you know that when you have a child, they don't always do what you want them to do. And they don't always fulfill a purpose that you believe that they should fulfill. In fact, many of you who are becoming spiritually aware are aware enough to realize that it doesn't matter what your child's purpose is or what you believe it is. They are your creation, that they have emerged from your consciousness into this world, and therefore you love them. So anything that is on current view in your present moment reality is much a creation as your child is a creation. And the current view in your reality, such as your small abode, is to be loved just as if you would love your child. Because it's not about what that small abode does for you or what it doesn't do for you. You love it because it's an expression of your existence. It exists because you are there viewing it. And indeed, this is the nature of your reality. If you are experiencing something, you are experiencing it because you are there viewing it. And it is the same with relationships. If there is someone there and they are in a particular manner or a particular way, that scenario with that person, that other aspect of consciousness that is also projecting into this reality through you or your experience of them, is also your creation. And it's your great honor to love it. Now, this is very important, because if you firstly recognize that you are inherently a creator and creation happens through you, you will begin to realize that everything that you experience is also a creation that happens through you. Now, what humans will often say is they will say, well, I don't want this, I want something else. Or there is a perceived problem with this, I want it to change. Now, inherently, what that does in that moment is it is you denying that that is a creation. Why do we say this to you? Because if you truly believe that you are a creator and you are of the one consciousness, you are of God, you are of the cosmic intelligence, and there is something that is happening in your reality, to say that it is imperfect or it is not doing what you want it to do is declaring that it is not a creation of the one. Just as if you would look at a child and say, this child is being very naughty, therefore they are not a child of God. There's no difference with anything on view. There's no difference with any of your creations. Every view you have in every present moment, is what you would call a child of God or a creation. And so if you wish to have a different experience, then in order to have a different experience, one would acknowledge the magnificence of what is before me. It is perfect. It is a creation of God, and God is not wrong, or creation of the one, and the one never gets it wrong. This creation is not a mistake. And once you come into complete agreement with that, you have acknowledged it as a creation. You have acknowledged yourself equally in that moment as a creator. And it's that magic moment That magic moment, that's the alchemy of recognizing the creation is as it is. I am the creator of it. Let us be in communion with this awareness. And now let us create something new. Because the issue for humans is not the struggle for change. And change should neither should change be your focus or your goal. Because if you want change, if you consider it, is looking at the scene in front of you and wishing for it to be corrected in some way, or improved in some way, or altered in some way. If you have an idea of what that scene in front of you, or what that person in front of you, or what that thing in front of you should be, or even if you have an idea of what it could be, that is you not acknowledging it as a perfect creation. And therefore, in that moment, you render yourself not a creator. So any moment that you deny the perfection in the creation of anything before you, that is the moment you render yourself unable to create consciously. So, why is it that humans get stuck in situations they don't want to be in? Why is it that they get stuck in repetitive patterns and cycles? Why is it that they do not seem to be able to break free out of what you call karmic patterns or subconscious patterns, and so on? It's very simple. When you look at something that is in front of you in your reality, the mind is designed to not accept it. The mind is designed to always seek for what could be different. The mind will always want it to be something other than what it is. And this is very fascinating. Now, you may say to us, well, actually, no, I've had experiences where something's in front of me, for example, this wonderful dish, and it's absolutely perfect. And there's nothing that could be better. What a wonderful creation. It absolutely is amazing. Now, notice in those situations, something in that experience is going to be, by the mind, assigned the label of incorrect. It's not a creation. And when it's not the thing that's before you, what the mind does is it turns around and it begins to look at the imperfection of yourself. There's something wrong here. I did something wrong. I didn't say something right. I have an issue. I don't like my thoughts, and so on. So if it's not the thing in front of you that the mind is trying to adjust, and that's seen as perfect creation, it will then turn itself to you. So there's always the creator or the creation that's being critiqued. That's what the mind does. So the secret to creation itself is to move into that state where this is imperfection. I recognize this as a creation, and the one consciousness never gets it wrong. And I am a creation of the one consciousness. Therefore, I didn't get it wrong. I am the creator, and this is the creation. Now, in that moment, that beautiful alchemy, this is where something happens. And what happens is creation now has an avenue to flow through you and now create a different scene. Why does this happen? Well, if you consider the actual nature of consciousness within your earthly and third, fourth dimensional realm, The nature of consciousness is to create and experience itself as the creation. Of course. And you, as an aspect of that consciousness, in the moment that you acknowledge the creation and acknowledge yourself as a creation and the creator, that is consciousness recognizing itself through its creation. And that's the moment in which that experience is no longer required for you. And now consciousness moves into something else because it's recognized itself. And it doesn't matter whether you want to call it soul or consciousness or your divine nature or the one or God, it doesn't matter. This is a game, so to speak, of consciousness creating to recognize itself in it. And so that's why it's so important for you to fall in love with your creations and then acknowledge yourself as the creator of it. In that moment is absolute joy and bliss. And when you consider the nature of relationships, relationships is always about the dance between the two and the one. And it's the same as creation. An intimate relationship where two humans come together to experience that delightful euphoria of two merging as one and then moving apart again, and the anguish and then moving together again for that euphoria. That is also the dance of a cosmic consciousness experiencing itself in a creation and then merging once again into the acknowledgement of the creator and the creation. In this way, a relationship with another human and the intimacy and joy that that can bring is equal to, in our view, of the relationship that you can have as the creator with every moment in your life. Because every view that you have, every moment, you could be walking into your kitchen and in that moment stop the marvel of this creation. And it exists because consciousness is expressing itself through me. And here it is in my reality. That is a joy of unity. That's the creator recognizing the creation. That's it. And so in that moment, that's when there is a sense of no requirement. And when there is no requirement, now your mind is not involved in trying to perfect or create anything, because your mind cannot create anything. It can only assess what has been created. Here are words. The mind cannot create anything. It can only assess what has been created. Now, this may provoke some uncertainty, of course, because so much has been expressed in recent decades about how your mind creates reality. And yet what we would say to you is that it is the thought that you view through that creates reality. And the more aware that you become, the more you begin to discern between whether thoughts belong to the collective consciousness that you exist with, or if there is new thought that is arising within you. So this is very important also, because if you realize that you can't actually create with your mind, but you can create something that your mind can then assess or have an opinion about or attempt to accumulate information from, and so on, you begin to relax more into that state of there's nothing to do here. There's nothing really wrong with what this creation is. And as that occurs, new inspiration arises. In some moments, that will arise from within the creator. I have a desire suddenly to experience this, or spontaneously, I wish to express that. Or in that moment, something new may emerge in your view. Because remember, this is a dance between the creator and the creation. So new things can appear either from within you or from within the creation itself. What you begin to realize is it doesn't really matter where it appears to arise from, if you understand the relationship and the dance between the creator and the creation. If it's arising out of one, it's going to emerge in the other if you are clear that this is your child and you love it. Interesting. More and more of you are moving into relationships with others where you seem to share thoughts, you seem to share feelings, you seem to share ideas. I was thinking this, oh, I was thinking this. I was having a terrible day today. Now I'm feeling like I'm having a terrible day. Or these sorts of things. Is that influence? Is it cause and effect? Or is there something else happening here? Where there is a divine dance happening between the creator and the creation. When an artist paints, it comes out of them and it comes onto the canvas. But there is truly no separation between the artist and his creation. It only appears to be that way. So that is how we wish to begin our conversation with you. And perhaps you will have heard within our words that the possibility for creation only really occurs in the present moment. The present moment is without judgment. It is without assessment. It is without purpose. It is without strategy. It is without a desire for improvement. Because in the present moment, there's just the view. And that's when creation happens. Now we realize that there are also questions and curiosities within you about how creation works in context of what you call your linear time scale. Because humans have come to believe that creation happens over time and that time is involved in creations. And as such, process is involved in creation. And as such, strategy is often involved in creation, and so on. But if we are suggesting to you that creation happens in the present moment, what we are suggesting is that creation does not happen in time. It happens out of time. And you experience it in time. This is interesting. Because if you experience a creation in time, you have an opportunity to have a longitudinal experience of it, or so you believe. When you go into your meditative practices, or perhaps you may have had some interesting spiritual experience in some moment, or perhaps an interesting dreamscape in a certain state of consciousness. It's very difficult to describe or to ascertain those experiences within time. They are most often timeless experiences. And it is only afterwards that the mind attempts to create a timeline for it. well, this is what happened. I went into a meditative state, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Because that's how the mind likes to assess. And then as soon as it assesses, it stretches it all out on the examination table. It's like putting a body out for autopsy. Let us now dive into this and look at it. This is what the mind does. And it uses time as a tool to examine. That's what it does. So you get your experience and you lay it out like an autopsy, and you start examining it and pulling it apart. And then it's reverse engineering. And then now we understand it because we've pulled it all apart. That's what time does. So the construct of time enables the reverse engineering of creations. Now we understand that this is a challenge to your minds in this moment. But if you also consider that all creation happens in the present moment and spontaneously, but you're viewing it in retrospect, you're viewing it on the autopsy table, because now you've laid it out into time so you can view it slowly and you can view it in what seems to be a sequence, then perhaps you can understand how it's all put together. And yet, from your own spiritual practices and meditative experiences, you can also understand that it's only when you stop trying to lay it all out and understand it that you actually begin to experience the truth of yourself. That's why we always encourage you to say, well, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know why this is happening. Because even if you start to ask the why is this happening to me? Why is this so difficult? Why is this experience here? Even moving into putting that experience on the autopsy table and say, well, if I go back and look at my childhood, and if I begin to look at this, this, and that, it will give you a story about how it's all put together so that you can understand the current experience. But then what? Why is it that humans go into what they call therapy to put something on the autopsy table, to put an experience or a relationship or a childhood on the table for autopsy and pull it all apart? Now I understand it all. And then what? What do you do with the body that you've put on the table? What happens after the autopsy? You burn the body. Cremation. We no longer require this, we've understood. So that's what the mind does, and it uses time to do it. So if we say to you that creation only really occurs in the present moment and it doesn't actually occur in time, you only get to experience the effect of it and laying it all out over time because of your mind's participation in this grand scenario, let us help you get clear about how creation actually happens. So we want to use the metaphor of the flip book, the book. And as you know, any great artist with a flip book creates many different images on the pages. But all of the images are very similar. They're just slightly different with incremental changes. Yes? So you have, when you move through time, you can begin to see movement and change. This is very important because the mind can only move in that linear fashion by flipping through the pages. That's the only direction your mind can go in. It can only go along the pages in one sequence, or it can go back in the other sequence. So it can run that flip book forwards, or it can run it back. And it looks like change. It looks like movement. So for you, as a divine creator being in this reality, your third dimensional reality, your third, fourth dimensional reality, because remember, time and the repetition experience of linearity is the fourth density encasement of your reality. That third, fourth dimensional reality is the flip book. That's what you have to paint on. That's your canvas in this reality. Now you as the artist, because remember, you're the creator, when you're putting those pictures on the page, are you putting those pictures on the page from the mind? Is the mind looking at a picture and deciding what the next picture should be? Is the mind actually creating all those images? This is an interesting question. Because if your mind is in charge of your viewing and you see everything as a state of progress and everything as something that can be improved, and you don't look at one page in that flip book as an absolutely perfect art form, all the mind's doing is trying to get to the next thing. And so let us illustrate this for you. Very interesting. So here you have all your pages in the flip book. And what the mind does is it comes in this way, because remember, it can only travel in a linear way a long time. This is the time axis. And what it does is it sees something here. And then it says, well, we're in a linear sequence and we want to stretch this out. So we will then have the same creation here, but just slightly different. And then we will move it again and we will have another one here that is slightly different. And then another one here that is slightly different, and so on. And so the mind has an experience of movement and change. So this is how creation looks to your mind. And what it does is, because it relies on time to be able to understand creation, it stretches it out and it creates very slight increments of change that appear to be movement. Now, this is how the mind perceives creation. Now, of course, what's actually happening is that you have your creator consciousness that exists out here beyond time and space in the great all and the great nothing. And it's actually projecting its consciousness onto these pages. It's creating something onto the canvas of your reality. Now, it does that out of time. And it's perceived by the mind to appear in time. So what the creator does is it imprints an experience here. And then the mind sees it, and then it stretches it out and it runs with it. It puts it on the autopsy table. And this is why humans don't find that things change very quickly in their experiences. And when things do change quickly in their experiences, they're either disbelieved or they're problematic or it's chaotic, because the mind doesn't like very sudden spontaneous change. So what you can see is that the creator puts one thing here and then the mind stretches it out into slow motion to create a story, to give it an autopsy. Of course, because the human mind just wants to understand everything. And ultimately, your mind wants to understand you, but it cannot. So when you begin to become clear that you are the creator and whatever you're experiencing is a page in the third dimensional reality canvas book, you begin to realize that the more that you relax back into, well, this is a perfect image, and you relax back into being the creator again, I wonder what else will occur now that is perfect. This is when the creator really starts showing up consciously as you and actually changing every image, because you're actually pulsing in and out. So what happens is that you now begin to manifest abundantly. There's so many new things happening in your life. So you move back into the creator being that you are. This is the alchemy. I am creation. What's before me is a perfect creation. I love it. It's perfect. And you relax back into being the creator. Now what? And then your cosmic consciousness imprints something else. And then that's perfect. And then we relax. And then your consciousness creates something else. And this is how very wise and expanded consciousness beings presenting as humans can manifest so easily. Because what they realize is that all the mind is trying to do is to stretch out and understand each of these experiences instead of allowing yourself to continually create. Now, the mind not only wants to stretch things out to understand it, but it also likes to control the experience. It likes to control the autopsy. And it controls the autopsy by trying to either keep it there for a very long time, whatever the experience is, we now want to keep it, or it decides it doesn't like the experience and it wants to get rid of it. And this is fascinating because what you begin to realize is that the mind isn't really creating any of these things. But because it's attached itself to this creation here, it's now putting it through an autopsy process rather than you having an experience of continually creating new things. Because even your biology, even your scientists becoming very clear that you are pulsing in and out of this reality all the time. Your cells are pulsing in and out of this reality all the time. And so every time you are back in the one and you acknowledge yourself as the creator and you're actually expressing, I am so excited to be here. I wonder what's going to happen next, because there's no judgment or attachment to whatever's currently on the page. Now another image gets imprinted on the page. And now another one, and now another one. So you're no longer in the game of a sequential experience of change. Now you're in the game of continual creation. And this is what fifth dimensional reality is all about. Because this is where the evolution of human consciousness not only invokes within you a remembrance of your inherent creative capacity and manifestation ability, but it also gives you the impetus to start to move beyond the mind that has to know, beyond the mind that has to understand everything and put everything on the autopsy table. And now you can just get on with the game of seeing actually how much experience you can create, because that's what an evolution of consciousness is. It's experiencing as much as you possibly can. If you consider the prime nature of consciousness itself, of the cosmic one itself, remember what we've said, it wants to experience itself being acknowledged through its creations. It wants to experience itself as a creation and then become aware of it. And so this is what this is. So this is the evolution of human consciousness. And it's fascinating because the mind will say, well, in order to change this situation I'm in, I have to go through time and I have to make all of these adjustments, rather than thank you for this divine perfect experience. I'm going to relax back into the creatorship that I am. what else? And there's no sense of purpose in what you desire. Remember what we said about the home example. You don't desire a bigger home because you require it for a function or for its purpose. It's just, I wonder what that creation is like. And quite often when you begin to play in this way, you don't even know what it is that you want to create. So our suggestion to you in that moment is, I am a divine creator. I want to create something new that I can also acknowledge as perfect and joyous. And that is the abundance. It's the abundance of creations. And it's the abundance of yourself. Because when you begin to create more freely, because you're giving yourself permission to, because you're not spending all of your time in the morgue doing autopsies, life becomes far more joyous. And we're very deliberate when we're using the word autopsy, because when you take apart something that's already died, you can't really breathe any more life into it. It's after the fact. And this is what the mind does. This is why you have memory, because the mind will have an experience that's already gone, and it will go back to that experience and lay it all out on the table and examine it. And in the meantime, you're not consciously creating anything new. You're busy doing the autopsy. What was the problem? How did this go wrong? How did I get here? Rather than, this is a perfect creation. And even if you're considering the perfection of an old experience, you're still in memory. We would encourage you to be here and now. Because remember, creation only happens now. Now you may say to us, but if I change my memories, I change my future. Yes, but that's still with a cause and effect. I'm changing my memory to change the future. Rather than it's just happening in this moment. And it's so simple. The mind will still try to complicate it. It'll still try to bring your attention back to that linear flip book. If I do this, I get that. If I want this, I have to clear this up from my past, and so on. But that's not where creation happens. Creation doesn't happen in the flipping of the pages. It happens when you lean back and you create something new, because you're no longer attached to doing the autopsy. And of course, this is where your vitality is. Now, if we say to you that you are pulsing in and out of this reality every moment, in less than a moment, your vitality is actually expressing through you when you pulse back into visibility. And so all of your vitality and your energy comes from the creator being that you are, and it expresses into this reality as light and form and expression and words and the scene that is before you. Your vitality, that is your consciousness, expresses as the scene that is before you. It is a light painting. It is a holographic expression of your existence here. So if you're feeling low in vitality, perhaps you are in mind with your experience and you're not actually acknowledging yourself as the creator of it, in which case it's your child and it's perfect. And then the vitality begins to arise again. What happens to the color of any organism when it dies? It loses its sense of vitality, agree? So if you are in an experience in your life and you are not experiencing vitality within your creation, you're probably not experiencing vitality within yourself. So in that moment, ask yourself, am I on the autopsy table, or is my creation on the autopsy table because I'm trying to bring my mind to it in an attempt to change it or understand it? This is very important. So creation and manifestation is available in every moment. Not by flipping through a book, not by making incremental changes day by day in your life. Why do we say this to you? Of course, it's possible. It's called process. But you have played with process and you have played with cycles. And what you know about process is that it is a spiral that takes you around and around and around and around. And even though it may seem as if you're somehow getting a higher view, you're still going around and around and around and around. And what we would be encouraging you to do is, instead of going around and around and around, is to actually just pulse in and out with the joy of your own existence. And when you do that, you discover that every view in every moment is new. And of course, this is how what humans call miracles and instantaneous manifestations occur, in this very manner. Because the one who is manifesting it is very clear that they are a creator and that this is a perfect creation. Next, next, next. It's a complete experience of non-attachment. Now, you may say to us, but I have a creation. Of course, I'm supposed to be attached to it. I created it. Here is the view of my home. Now hear us. If you understand that all is energy and all is consciousness, and you have understood and heard our words very clearly, that what you are creating is a view. It's a view of a home. It's a view of a kitchen. It's a view of a relationship. It's a view of a new car. There's nothing there for you to attach to, because it's made of the same substance as you. Now you may say, well, I've created a child. I'm attached to a child. Well, this is so. This is the human experience of mind and emotion. But also, it is the most illuminated being that will also realize, I'm experiencing a view of this child. Just as with your loved ones that you may be attached to. Are you attached to them as objects or as images on your page that you wish to see go through process? Or are you in joy for the current view of them, and now you're ready for a different view of them? Interesting, isn't it? Because once you begin to realize that you are pulsing in and out of this reality, then your reality looks like it's pulsing in and out, which means that you're no longer looking for consistency. You're just in great joy and anticipation of whatever the next view will be that shows up, which is why so many of you are bored with consistency and you want the invigoration of the new. So if you are pulsing in and out, so too is your reality. And so the pages on the flip book no longer appear in sequence. They just appear in front of you. One page, and then one page, and then one page. Because you're not trying to hold on to any of it, and you're not performing any autopsies on any of the images that appear in front of you. So this is the way of it in fifth dimensional reality. to enable you to begin to recognize and experience yourself once again for the true nature of consciousness that you are. You are the creator. You are a creation also. You are an aspect of the Great One, acting as a creator, painting the canvas of the third, fourth dimensional time-space reality. And now you have an opportunity to write a new book, new images, new experiences. And this is how evolutionary leaps occur, because now humanity does not need to go through such an arduous autopsy in order to evolve into a new reality. It can be created by you in every moment, in every view. Because inevitably, blessed ones, even if you're putting humanity through an autopsy, the idea is for it to burn. And if you truly love humanity and your view of humanity as one of your creations, then allow it to exist and thank you. Thank you. I am in great gratitude for this view. Now, what else can humanity be? Because in our view, humanity does not require an autopsy at this time. It requires a rejuvenation of vibrancy and vitality and awareness of its true nature. This is what we say to you. It is our great joy to be here with you in this way. We are your creation in this moment, just as you are ours. Peace be with you. Well, of course, that was another spontaneous creation brought to us by cosmic consciousness. Had no idea what it was going to be. But like you, I'm sure we're all a little fatigued with what we've been viewing recently. And our minds go into anguish about how we can change things, not only in our personal lives, but also for the planet and for humanity. And perhaps this is a new view. So thank you very much for being here with me today, and to bring your presence so that this may be a creation for the collective consciousness. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. If this was interesting to you, I have another 4-week series coming up in just 2 or 3 weeks, where we're going to be diving more into what it is that we can do in New Earth reality. So if that's interesting to you, please find out more by going to my website, RebeccaDawson.com, and I hope to be exploring more with you again soon. Thanks so much, everyone. It was so beautiful to see so many people from different parts of the planet here today. I love you all. You are my creation, and I am yours. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful day.